Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of At the Movies with William Fletcher. As per usual, I'm your host, William Fletcher, and this week I'm joined by a very, very special guest uh, who's never been on the show before. So that's always special to have someone new joining me for this. And this week it is one of my sisters, Mrs. Amy Wallace.
Hi.
This week we're going to be talking about Wicked, or Wicked Part 1, if you prefer, because it's retroactively been called that now, because there is the second part of Wicked, Wicked for Good, out this week when this episode goes out, and you were interested, like, a year ago or something to talk about Wicked.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, it's going to be one of the biggest films of the year, Wicked for Good, so it's probably worth talking about to some degree.
Going into Wicked at the end of last year, like, I know it's a big, very popular musical. I hadn't seen the musical. I knew a couple of songs because they've done them on, like, Glee. Like, they're very popular songs. I've
Yeah.
heard them. But I was very keen to see the movie because I like musicals, the idea of the story. And when I saw it for the very first time, I was like, this is incredible. It's one of the only movies I've been to see more than once in the cinema. And I just felt like there was so much to talk about and so much to say that I was like keen to come on and speak about it.
Yeah. Just like, can you think of any other films you've seen in the cinema more than once?
Yes, but I saw Valentine's Day, the like American Love Actually, in the cinema twice. But not because I like Valentine's Day. Okay, it's not a bad film. It's not necessarily like see it twice in the cinema, especially with cinema prices what they are now. It was just a coincidence that I had seen it, I think, with friends, and then my family were also going to see it, and I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm seeing this again. But Wicked is the first one that I was like intentionally like, yes, I could go and see this again. I could go and watch this
Yeah.
many times in the cinema and be very happy with that.
Yeah. The only ones that are springing to mind are I saw Avengers Endgame twice, Spider-Man No Way Home twice.
Like a lot of those films you've mentioned are really like epic films, very big
Mm,
plot and a lot going on, and
mm,
probably necessary to see a few times to really get. There's
yeah.
definitely stuff that you would miss. Being Wicked for the first time, I was like, this is one of those films. Like, this is epic story and just an epic, like, the sets, the everything that is going on.
Mm,
I think it's really interesting, right, that the first one is called Wicked Part 1, and then the second one is
mm,
called Wicked for Good. And I know, like, I think Wicked, like, for Good is that's a very clever name. Like, that's one of the songs in it. It's one of the like overarching themes. And I just wonder why there wasn't like a clever name for the first part. Because it's a very thoughtful production.
yeah.
Many
I
of the
mean,
things they've done are very thoughtful. It just seems like a bit of an oversight. Like,
so for sort of context, I was not massively excited about this film, like, at
mm,
all. It just didn't seem like my thing. Then the first trailers started coming out, and I didn't think they looked great. And I mean, to be honest, I mean, I think generally people thought they looked good, but there was a lot of like people saying how weird Elphaba looked, like the makeup and overly CGI and everything, all those sorts of things. And then sort of there were all these, I say controversies. They weren't really like a big deal controversies though. They were very like, this is not I don't like how aware you were of all the things coming out about the film and the cast and things that were
Yeah, just on, like, little dramas, right? Just on, like,
yeah,
little yeah.
yeah. Like, there was the whole Ariana Grande, Ethan Slater thing where they apparently cheated on their, like, partners with each other.
Like,
I
you're
mean, it's
working very closely,
very
and
common
it's not
for
relevant to
no.
the film.
And it's like it's happens with like there are so many people who cheat on like their partners in the industry. Like it's not this isn't the first time this has happened, you know, directors and actors and writers, they all, you know, it's all a they all not all do this, but a lot of them, you know, do this. So it's not like
Yeah,
it shouldn't be like this should have been like because it does happen. Not that it's good that
mm,
it happens, but it does happen. It's like because it's
and
not
there
like it's
was
illegal or anything, like, it's just a
yeah.
morally not a great thing, but legally,
There
it's
was
like, whatever,
also
but yeah.
stuff about, like I don't know if it was all, like, AI generated or, like, fan created, like, images or videos of Ariana and Cynthia or their characters, and, like, a lot of stuff there as
Yeah,
well, just probably a lot of obviously, it's a very popular show, like, a very popular
mm,
musical, and so
mm,
people immediately like, big fans of it, probably immediately reacting to stuff, the poster, the trailer, whatever, without
yeah,
taking a moment or actually
mm,
seeing the finished product yet to be able to make a
mm,
call on it. For me, I hadn't seen the show, so I
mm,
was coming in with no, like,
package.
preconceived notions or yeah, baggage of what was going on. I didn't know Cynthia Erivo. I know Ariana Grande and I wouldn't like I wasn't not a fan, but I wasn't like a huge fan. Like, yeah, was sort of just able to come in and just watch and see what happened. And I think that probably made a difference for me. I don't know if other
Yeah,
people felt differently
yeah,
feeling, yeah, coming in with
because I wasn't really familiar with the show. I'd heard Defying
mm,
Gravity, and I didn't know that was Wicked, like, but I first heard, "Oh, okay, that's I didn't know it's from Wicked. I mean, I knew it before I saw Wicked, I just don't remember when I, like, found out it was from Wicked. I didn't have expectations for it, like, I was just going based off the trailers and the marketing and the casting, you know, so I was able to go in I don't wanna say, like, objectively or anything, like, I didn't go in with, like, a bias as, like, this is, you know, like, there's certain other musicals that I love that if they were adapted, I would go in with certain expectations because of I'm familiar with the material, but because I'm not familiar with it
yeah, yes.
as a story, beyond, like, a
Mm,
basic premise, like, what if the Wicked Witch in Wizard of Oz wasn't actually always this bad? You know, like, that's
yes.
basically what I knew
Yeah,
about it,
yeah,
and
same,
so I
like, you
thought
knew the
yeah.
theme, right, of
Yeah,
what's
yeah, I knew
yeah,
what to and that there would be, you know, lots of Wizard of Oz stuff. Yeah, I went in knowing nothing, basically, and I didn't intend to see it at the cinema initially because I just thought I probably won't be, like, a big fan of it.
mm,
And then it came out, and sort of immediately everyone said, "This is a great film." Everybody
yeah,
loved it.
yeah,
People loved it, and I was still a bit hesitant because, you know, I'm not always like I don't always agree with what people think is like like a very recent example was Dune. I'm not
yeah,
a big fan of the Dune films, and so I sort of don't really go like with like general audiences. I don't necessarily always agree with, but I have a
mm,
friend, and he saw it, and he's not really a fan of Wicked either, and he really liked the film, you know, despite not being a fan of the show. It's like, that's something I can trust a bit more because it's someone like I know who doesn't care for this
mm,
story, but he actually liked the film. So I sort of was like, okay, I saw it with you. and it was like the very beginning of the year, like January something. I don't remember the date
Yeah, yeah.
exactly. And also, I was always gonna have to sit because when it came out, it was like getting like this is gonna be a big Oscars contender. Like this is gonna get nominated for like a bunch of stuff, like including Best Picture. So I'm gonna have to watch it
Yeah.
because I
Yes. Yeah.
nominees every year, so I was like, I'm gonna have to watch it at some point, which I don't think many people were thinking about. Sort of initially, it got 10 Oscar nominations and it won line and production design.
Mm. Yeah, that makes sense.
So
Behind the
the
scenes kind of ones.
yeah, behind the
Um,
scenes, the technicals, yeah, which doesn't
but I
surprise me.
suspect
Yeah.
that Wicked for Good will also be nominated for and probably
Mm.
more in the running to win some of the acting ones.
I think
Um,
there was last year there was a big sort of Zoe Saldana and Emilia Perez where people were
yeah,
sort of like the front runner for a while, and then Wicked came out, and everybody thought Ariana Grande was phenomenal in it, and then we were sort of like,
yeah.
oh, maybe Ariana could win this, but she didn't in the end. But I think this year
No, but I
Ariana's
she
got.
was a very solid, like, 2nd place
I think
for
if
the
yeah, if
Best
Zoe
Supporting
Saldana
Actress.
hadn't been nominated, I think it would have been Ariana.
I do think that Ariana's casting faced
Mm,
a lot of criticism early on, or, like,
yeah,
skepticism maybe more, from
I
people being like,
will.
"Oh, I don't know if she
Yeah,
can do this." And
yes,
I think that's really I didn't know lots of her previous work, but I have seen her on, like, the Nickelodeon shows that she did
yeah,
without really knowing the musical, but some of my friends did, and they sort of said Glinda's kind of like the comedic
yeah.
character, and being like and then being like, "I'm not sure Ariana can do this." I was like, "No, no, like, she's got this, like, she can do this." I've seen her do an incredible job in the
Mm,
film, and she's also, like, having seen sort of behind the scenes stuff or interviews and things like that, she's worked very hard for that role. One of the things so yeah, I've watched Wicked a couple of times now and with, like, different groups of people, and one of my friends that I watched it with sort of commented on Ariana's voice in the film and how significantly different it is from her previous, like, music and stuff, which is something that there've been, like, interviews on that she, like, did the vocal work to change her voice to fit Glinda's style, to sort of brighten her voice, I think she used the word, like, sort of bring it up so it's a little bit higher than it usually is to better complement Cynthia's voice. Exceptional, like, it's been
mm,
she obviously had to work to do that and then has kept that up for a number of years that it took to
mm.
do pre-production, post,
Um,
and so on.
yeah, I was a bit skeptical about Ariana being in it. Not that I have like a real problem with Ariana, but
Mm,
I was sort of wondering if like, is it just they've got this big name actor in because they can, and but that's just how I feel, sort of in a general sense about when I see like musicians in films, a lot of them it sort of
yeah,
feels to me like,
yeah.
is this like, are they just doing so they can get this big name actor in it? And I'm just doing some reading here because this film has been in for a long, long time. And I'm just reading here in 2011, we're gonna have they were considering. I know Dina Menzel was Elphaba on the
Yeah.
stage, and I don't remember the name of the other woman who was Glinda.
Kristen Chenoweth.
Yeah,
Yeah, I can't she's in Glee for a little bit there, but, like, The
um,
West Wing and other she's done a great number of things. The musical, like, are they the original
I believe they're
actors?
the original performers, yeah, when they first, like, debuted the show, I believe, which I think is keep them on, and I mean, I'm not really familiar with Kristen. Idina Menzel has, a great voice, because, you know,
Yeah,
they
yeah.
and this is the kind of film we need fantastic singers in those roles. Like, there needs to be a real
Mhm.
power to their singing. And I'm just reading here, so apparently Leah Michelle was rumored to be one of the leads at one point, which would have been a
Yeah, that
choice,
wouldn't
but it
surprise
but, I
me.
mean, if they
Yeah, you're
did.
looking for not just a singer, but a Broadway singer, like a musical
Yeah,
theatre singer, like not
yeah,
n a pop singer, which I think, like,
yeah,
people don't or maybe aren't as aware that, like, that's what like, Ariana has that background, like, she's not just
yeah,
a pop star, I think
yeah,
that she
um,
started.
yeah, yeah, and, also apparently Amy Adams was in consideration for one
That
of the
is
lead roles.
really it for
It's an
Glinda?
interesting choice. I assume so. Like, the way it's written here, it says Leah Michele and Amy Adams, which implies they would be, which
Like,
is an
together,
interesting,
yeah.
because Amy Adams is a very good actor, but she's not a singer.
Like, she does sing, like,
I mean, she
she
does. I mean, she
sings
did
in
Enchanted,
Enchanted,
but
but
that's very different. She's not a Broadway singer, though.
yeah, it's hard for me to, like, picture her in
Mm,
either well, yeah, I can only assume that she would have been Glinda to Leah Michelle Elphaba. Having seen the film, I just don't know that I can picture that at all. Now,
no.
I do like, obviously, there are, like, a lot of similarities actually between Idina Menzel and Leah Michelle. So it's not really
Mm,
surprising to me with Idina sort of coining the role on stage that Leah would be sort of your next generation's pick to
mm,
replace Idina. Like, the reason that she stars as Rachel Berry's mother on Leah, obviously people have seen that similarity between the two of them and placed them together
yeah.
before, so that's not really a surprise. But
Mm,
I think that there's definitely something more that Cynthia Erivo brings to the role that I now couldn't really picture a
mm,
different actress. Yeah.
mm. Well, I'm reading here. They also reportedly, this was like, because this film, they had initially planned to release it in 2016.
Mhm.
So they've really had this in develop. This has been in development hell for a long, long time. Then it was
Yeah,
pushed back
wow.
to 2019, and then, like, they've been working on it for like 15 years, basically trying to get it made. Before John M. Chu was director, they had a different guy, and he was reportedly considering Lady Gaga for Elphaba and Shawn Mendes for Fiyero, which is a which again
Oh,
is a very interesting choice, because they're not
right,
like
yeah, that's yeah.
stage, like Broadway singers. Like, they're
Mm.
singers, and that's they're good singers and everything, but like they're not quite the same kind of what you necessarily want for Wicked.
Obviously, I don't know who was potentially working on it before, but, like, John M. Chu is obviously such a fan and
Mm,
had a very clear vision for what he was looking for, and see that throughout the film that he's done, like, a wonderful job of carrying that, yeah.
I'm just reading some stuff here. This is all on the Wikipedia page, so we're like, I mean, I think Wikipedia isn't that bad of like a source, because it all has to be sourced for it to be able to be like published on
Yeah, yeah,
Wikipedia. Um,
yeah.
but apparently Ariana had initially auditioned for Elphaba due to like a miscommunication between her and John M. Chu, which would have been very different film if she was Elphaba instead. Because I think I just can't picture her in that role.
I think that, and I don't know, I'm just basing this off stuff that I've seen. Like, I think that, Ariana has always been interested in the role of Glinda. Like, that
Mm,
is the role that she wanted.
yeah.
I think I'm sure I've seen an interview with her where she was like, she turned up with her pink handbag and her pink water bottle just to make it really clear to everybody, like, which role she
Yeah.
wanted here. Like, her voice, like, she could have done the role of Elphaba in terms of the singing,
Mm.
but it wasn't the right fit for her
Like, yeah.
character-wise. Like, yeah,
Oh,
no,
yeah, and
she
for an
would do a wonderful job singing the songs that
yeah,
Elphaba sings, but the role is so much more than that.
yeah, like, for an act, because when you're when you're making a musical film, you have to sort of weigh up, because they need to be someone who can sing really well and also act really well. Like,
Yeah.
that's what you sort of need, and some musical films, they sort of lean too far one way or the other, like, Les Mis the Tom Hooper
Mm,
Rub. Like, the thing isn't really that great
yeah.
because it's going for well, also because they sung
Mm.
live on set, which is a terrible, terrible practice, and I don't think should be encouraged to it.
I've on set for
They did
with
which I didn't know until I doing some reading earlier today, which is impressive because it doesn't feel like they're like, I knew it was recorded live. I thought it had all been, it's like how they usually do, film songs like on film. I didn't know that they'd done it live because it doesn't, because when you watch Les Mis, it's very clear they are singing live on set. You have voice cracking, and there's like people, and like voices are very hoarse and they just don't sound. But that also is. But I think doing it live, or filming, music live it's yeah. I don't think it should be done. Just generally, I don't like. But I think it does create really, really great performances because the way certain I've heard actors talk about it, and like I saw a clip with Cynthia Erivo on like an actors like show, talking about how it's sort of, you can be a bit more spontaneous, like, because when you're, like, I saw an interview with Eddie Redmayne, and he was in Les Mis, and he sort of made the point that when you're recording ahead of time, 3 months before you've even arrived on set or met the actor you're working with, so you have to sort of make all those while you're recording the song. But if you do it live,
mm,
just like normal, but you're instead, which I think it does
yeah.
very real acting performances when when you're
Yeah,
on set, and you can react in that moment to react to certain things, and and not that it's invalid to do it the other way, of course. I think that's also perfectly fine, but it sort of, I guess it also sort of depends on the film you're making and the story you're trying to tell. Yeah, it worked. Yeah, and I didn't I didn't know that they sung live. Yeah, the singing's very good. Is what I'll say. I think
yes.
generally the singing is very, like, a couple of people who I don't think are very good.
You're talking there about, like, how emotional it is,
Mm,
and that's kind of I'm gonna talk about, like, the opening song, "No One Mourns the Wicked," was just like this is probably the part, like, seeing this first, 10 minutes of the film that I was like, "Oh, this is special,"
mm,
because I didn't know the story, I didn't know the characters, I didn't know anything. I literally teared up in that opening scene with
mm,
Glinda singing with all of the people in Munchkinland because I think like the song is very, very emotional. I think when you like, obviously you kind of know where you know the theme, you know where this story is going, that there's going to be more to it than
yeah,
just here's this wicked witch. But Ariana like carries so much emotion in Glinda there. Like it's this this juxtaposition of it's this big celebration. All the Munchkins are very happy. They've got their and they're burning their effigies and stuff. And you can see Glinda is there and she is giving her all to this song. Her eyes are just telling a completely different story. Like she is very upset and very emotional at this time. And without knowing for me, without knowing anything that's about to happen in the I could feel, what she was feeling there.
When we were talking to our mum about bringing her to come see it, she had seen there'd been all this stuff on TikTok, and there were some very emotional people who had, in cinema, and she was like, "Is it a sad movie?" And you were like, "Well, I mean, not like." It's because our mum is not one for. She doesn't really enjoy watching really emotionally
Yeah, yeah, and it's not a sad movie, but there are sad parts.
Yeah, I mean the general story, like the backstory we get for Elphaba is quite it's not like it's, the most, it's not like it's something that you haven't seen it before, but it's still she's treated differently because she's different, because she's,
Yeah,
green and everything. And so it's sort of, yeah, it's not like, yeah, it's not the like, sometimes it's really, upbeat and really happy and really fun, but then it does have the sort of the more sadder moments. And you were saying to me, you've read the book of Wicked, and
yes,
you were not a fan and you said it's very different, and that them and the fact that places are marketing this book as Wicked is a bit misleading, because
yeah,
it's very
yeah,
different and quite it's a
yeah.
much more harsher story.
Yeah. So obviously the book is actually The Wizard of Oz is the original source
Mm.
material, but then the book Wicked is the next in that line, and then the musical is I, I can't even say based on the book. I think that's sort of how it's presented, but it's having read the book, and because obviously I saw the movie, I really enjoyed the movie. And then everywhere book publishers were publishing, republishing the book with the movie cover on it. So I picked up the book because I was like, well, it's another year until the second part comes out, so I guess I'll read the book and see what happens. And I still can't tell you what happens because the book is not at all the same story as the musical or as the film. I assume that the film is close to the musical, although I think they have made changes. And the book is nothing like either of those things. The characters they have the same names, but it is a very, very dark story compared to the film. And the character, yes, Elphaba is treated differently, but film Elphaba is sort of this sensitive person who is very kind though and means well. Sometimes she comes across a little bit abrasive because she's doing that to protect herself. But Book Elphaba just actually is quite abrasive and quite like maybe she is also, but that sensitivity is really, really deep down. It also doesn't have the same kindness, I think, to her that
Mm.
Glinda in the film shows. Fiero is a really different character and also not as major a part. The main in the book Wicked, I would say the main male lead actually goes to Bok, the Munchkin boy, and he's very different as well. Bok in the film is kind of awkward and sort of follows Glinda around, but he's really not cool. And Bok is not really he's kind of your leading male character actually. So yeah, it's a very different story. If anybody is thinking about picking it up because they liked the film, well, welcome to, but you are not gonna get the same experience at all. So it's just so
Yeah.
yeah, people know.
I think
Mm,
I'm gonna be more negative than you are, from the sounds of it, about this film, and I didn't dislike to how much I did enjoy it, when I did see
yeah,
it, but it's didn't quite. I think there's a lot of people who love it, and you know, I don't love it, but I do like it to a degree, and there's some stuff I think is very good. And I was also just reading something else that because I think Ariana Grande is great in this role. I think she really works in that part. I remember when we saw it, you were like laughing at every other line she had, like
yeah,
very
she's very
consistently
yeah,
every and so when we saw it because we'd seen it like beginning of January, like a month and a half or so after it come out, and it was a really packed screening still. Like people were still
yeah,
turning out to see it and thing. So it's like it seems to have been a gambit that paid off because they did split it in half, which generally I'm not like a fan of. Generally speaking,
mm, yeah,
because it tells half a story usually. They when you have a story and you split it in half, there isn't like a conclusion to that first part of the story. I think that I mean, the film is it's 2 hours, 50 minutes long.
yeah,
Very, very long for a only, part story, but, when I saw it in the cinema and when I rewatched earlier today, I never found myself bored while watching it. Like, I didn't need all of it in there, but I was never, like, really bored by watching it, which I think is saying something. That, like, I watched, a
yeah.
close to 3-hour film and didn't find myself, like, feeling particularly bored by it.
I don't think that there are, like, any parts that drag. Like, there's
Mm,
not really any sort of slow parts. I think for me, the part that's, like, least interesting to me is sort of the, short day in the but there's a lot of kind of
mhm,
exposition that's happening there that you kind of need for the plot. So but pretty much, like, the whole like, everything before that is really just building up a lot of Glinda and Elphaba's relationship. Like, there are some deleted scenes that I've seen, like, they're quite short, but there's parts they've taken out that they honestly could have, like, kept in. I think there's, like but I'm really curious why they removed them. There's a scene where Glinda speaks to Elphaba she after the incident with the poppies and everyone's fallen asleep, and Glinda just says sort of to Elphaba, like, "Why didn't you choose me? Like, I would have helped you." And it's yeah, it's interesting they cut that. I don't know if they cut it because ultimately Glinda doesn't make to go with Elphaba, and maybe they felt that was, like, confusing to have that. And there's a scene also where Elphaba and Bok speak. I think it might be just before she gets on the train to go to the Emerald City that
mm,
I think really could have added to Bok's character because we really don't see very much of him, and
mm,
we definitely don't really see anything that makes kind of sympathetic, like,
mm.
he's kind of just this annoying sort of character in what we see. I think that's disappointing because I think that, well, I mean, in the book, that's not the role that he plays, and I think most of the other characters were better developed than Bok. Curious why we don't really see too much of him.
Yeah, and I've seen films of sort of similar length that do really feel like you're just feeling them minutes ticking by. And maybe
Yeah,
because this is like a musical, it's just inherently more fun, and so it's sort of
yeah,
easier to get swept into what it's doing, even if I don't like all of it, because I'm a big fan of musicals, I think. I wish more musical like films got made because they don't make them as much anymore. I was just doing some reading before that they had apparently because it's kind of hard to see anyone but Ariana as Glinda now. Like it's hard to see
Yeah.
her not playing that role. But they apparently also Dove Cameron, Renee Rapp, and Amanda Seyfried had all reportedly auditioned for Glinda, which is interesting because I think they're all good. Well, I don't know if I've seen Dove Cameron in much of anything really, but I like Renee Rapp, and I think
Yeah.
Amanda Seyfried is Seyfried, but I don't know
Yeah.
if they because like again, Amanda Seyfried, she is a good we know Amanda Seyfried is a good she did Mamma Mia and she did she is a singer. She has done singing before, but those
Absolutely,
are
yeah.
very different kinds of films. Like I haven't seen Mamma Mia, but it's not it's not the same kind of as what Wicked is.
Yeah, I think she would have been very interesting in the role. I was gonna say, like, I have seen Amanda Seyfried in, like, some very different roles because she's in that one, is it The Dropout? Is that what it's called?
Oh, that's
Where she's
the
playing
Tones.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. Where she plays a very different person to who she is in many of the other things I've seen her in. But I feel like a lot of the roles she plays is a little bit, I don't know, she's very sweet. Like, she plays
Mm,
very sweet characters. We spoke about, like, Amy Adams, like, the same kind
mm,
of thing, that very sweet role that I think wouldn't have carried what you need for Glinda here. Like, and they wouldn't have played it that way, and so that's
mm,
sort of, yeah. But I think Ariana's Glinda is not sweet. Like, she's quite
mm.
a force in and of herself.
I mean, yeah, I think yeah, Amanda Seyfried is like a better actor than Ariana is, but I don't think she would have necessarily fit in this role. Obviously, I'd have to see like the auditions, like the
Mm,
audition because obviously that's like as close to like knowing what we would actually get. But I think Ariana is great, and I don't really think anyone could have done it better, honestly. Like, I think Ariana was the thing that surprised me the most coming out of the film because I've seen her, I've seen her on like Nickelodeon stuff, everything, but I was like, I that will necessarily translate to this kind of a film, and I think it works very, very well. She has comedic, she brings the comedy that you sort of need to bring with role. No, and I think that I think she's probably like the best performance in the film, which is what I had sort of heard before I had seen it. Like I remember like that was the performance people were really talking about like as being really, really great. Like Ariana's the performance in that film that like was getting talked about the most. Not that people want to talk about the other performances or anything, but Ariana's was the one that was like that is the standout for a lot of people.
and I'm very interested to see the second part because I carry a lot of, like, empathy for Glinda in the first, like, I
Mm,
think Elphaba's story, but I
mm,
also think that Glinda, like, she doesn't seem like the villain that I was maybe expecting
mm,
her to be, and
yeah.
I don't know if that's in the musical, if they changed it for the film, the way that it, like, is. I'm curious to see, so I have seen the trailer obviously for Good, and there's, comments made there about Glinda kind of being ambitious and, doing these things because she has the ambition rather than doing what's right, what Elphaba is doing. So I'm curious to see whether that's
Yeah.
true or whether
Mm,
that's kind of a simplification, because
mhm.
I feel like in the first film a simplification of Glinda's character, especially like obviously early on you can see she's got her goals and she is working towards achieving them at whatever cost. Sort of that moment when they are at the Ozdust and Glinda realizes what Elphaba has done for her, but also is there seeing Elphaba dancing and everybody making fun of that. And in that moment, Glinda doesn't have to do anything. Like, there are hundreds of people there who are all laughing at this situation. And the strength of character it takes the moment to step out and join Elphaba, like, says a lot about Glinda's character, I think. The sort of discourse that, like, Elphaba is the hero and she's good and Glinda's just, like, is clearly not true because we not be true. Like, these moments where, like, we see, obviously, Glinda's had, you know, the kind of life where she can breeze through and it's a meeting for that she learns to make more difficult. Yeah. And obviously we really got that resolution at the end of the first film, which is sort of the point because you have the second part to come, wanting to know what happens next. Want to find out more. The Defying Gravity scene is so powerful, and there's this moment where they're singing, they're kind of like, yeah, we can do this together, and then they just don't know what sort of happens there. You don't really know. Madame Marvel's like whispered stuff to Glinda. You don't know what that is. Like, I'm curious what's gonna happen.
Yeah, it's the way film is. It's interesting because it's about like Elphaba, but the way it's framed is it's Glinda telling this story is like the way they frame it, which is well, I assume the musical is probably is like the same thing, like because the way the people making have talked about it, they have a real reverence and love for that original musical. So I can't imagine they're making too drastic changes to it. Jonathan Bailey, I saw all this. I don't know if I've seen it before or not. I remember now, but I remember Jonathan Bailey in this was like a thing people were talking about. I knew who joined him in like things, but he wasn't like a known entity to me. Like I saw him in a show a few years ago now called Crashing, which is like a dish like comedy show. And that's sort of really had seen him from. He was in an episode of Doctor Who, and I don't think he's really done many. I mean, this was like the only film I'd seen him in because most of this, I don't know what most of these films are, but like I know he was in Bridgerton, which was like the thing that really made him known.
Yes, and that's like, I think was late on the being a fan of Jonathan Bailey train because I've only seen him in Bridgerton, the character that he plays, and the eldest brother of the Bridgerton family. Anthony is just so irritating. Like, he's basically just this foil to the love story there between Daphne and Simon, and he didn't really redeem himself for me in the second season, which is about Anthony. It's not really until the third season, and I don't remember when it came out. I don't know. It must be last year. He's not in the third season very much because it's not really his story anymore at that point. And he has some funny moments there with his now like wife in the show. So he's just this very annoying Bridgerton, I found, like, just not appealing at all. And I didn't know that he was in Wicked until I was watching Wicked and there he was on the screen. And just the character of Fiyero, like, he just does a phenomenal job. I think, obviously, and yeah, obviously Jonathan Bailey is very popular and is in, has been in more films. He's been in Jurassic Park. He's probably got a lot of projects coming up. He's been voted sexiest man alive, like he's very, very popular. And I don't blame them, because Fiero, like his portrayal of Fiero is just so excellent. Like he has so much chemistry with literally every other cast member. Like obviously there's sort of the triangle between Elphaba, Glinda, and Fiero, but just every person that he speaks to in this film. And I think his scenes, some of the best scenes, like when he meets Elphaba for the first time in the forest, like he is so funny there. And then when he meets Glinda, like their introduction as well is also a very funny scene. The musical number of Dancing Through Life, the top 5 musical numbers that I've ever seen in anything. I can't imagine the amount of time and people and effort and energy that it took to choreograph and to create, like particularly like the library part of it, right? John M. Chu talking about the set there and those like rotating bookshelves. He calls them like a tornado wheel. Like it's not just like you watch this scene and you're thinking, oh, like you can do that with computers and CGI and stuff nowadays, but it's not. It is all just real. And I think that, and like Jonathan Bailey is doing all of his own dancing in the scene. Like I have so much respect for everybody that works on a film to do something like that and like make that in reality.
It's a tangible set that like they can actually interact with the set properly and do and actually move around in the space and actually, like, because a lot of the time now, because of CGI and how just it's cheaper for companies to use CGI and just saves time for them. That sequence that I think is one of the best scenes in the film. It's obviously a very well choreographed sequence. Jonathan Bailey is a very good singer. I was just doing. He's been doing stuff on the stage since he was like 10 years old. Like he's been doing this for so long and for a significant period of his life. So it's like he can work in these environments and he knows how and he can sing and he can dance and he can act. Like he can do all of these things, and that is missed sometimes with films like a film from where like La La Land. So and Ryan Gosling are very, very good actors, but they're not especially great singers. And in that film, it's interesting because that film is very much a loving ode to like 1950s, 1960s musicals, and you kind of need really, really great singers if you're going to be emulating that. So it's interesting to see that because I think obviously it depends on the film you're trying to make and everything, but something like Wicked, I think you should at least try and get someone who's a very good singer before you try and get like a really good actor. And for the most part, they've got people who are very good at both. Sequence, sort of when I saw it, the Dancing Through Life sequence was kind of like just filming on that set and rotating like bookshelves. I was like, this must have been an absolute pain to try, like to choreograph, to work with, like able to like to work with it in that way because it's not something traditional or typical to work for a set. It's you're moving within a rotating area, so it's always it's impressive to see. And I think Jonathan Bailey has that. He's just got this natural charisma and inherently he just seems very inherently likable and the way he carries himself in the film. From sort of the first scene you meet Hero, he is just sort of this very, and I saw before everyone was saying how how attractive he was and everything, and I'm like, yeah, that it doesn't surprise like it's
Yeah, but
I wasn't
it's more than
surprised,
that.
but it's more than that, and I think he does do a very good job in this. I think I was like, man, if he, I mean, I didn't think he would get an Oscar nomination, but I was like, he wouldn't be like complete. It wouldn't be like undeserved if he did get a nomination.
Part 1 is mostly about Elpha and Glinda's relationship.
Mm,
So yes, I'm definitely keen to see more of him in the second part, although I think that the role he'll be playing is very different because in the first part, like when he's introduced, he is that very charismatic and light-hearted and funny, and obviously then the time we see him after they've rescued the lion cub, he is somber, like he's a much more
mm.
somber person, and I expect the second part of you know, the second film to be a more somber, deep kind of film without as many sort of comedic parts, probably because the story's obviously taken, a bit of a darker turn.
Yeah, because sort of one of the sort of elf film is that we see that the animals they're losing their voice, which is a very much a running, sort of subplot in the film. Yeah, sort of small part, and that does sort of lead to one of the elements I didn't like. That is a bit that I did kind of forget about coming back to losing their voice because it's not really something they focus on that much. Like it really feels like the story is about Ella, like she's treated differently because of how she looks and all these things, which I think it sort of feels like maybe there's just a bit too much going on there, but it seems like with the way they were, director and producers, and they were talking about it, the reason they made it into two films was because they didn't want to lose anything. They wanted to tell the whole thing. So maybe that's the problem as well, is they're not cutting anything. They're keeping it all in there.
So
Translate to film.
it is a major plot of the novel, and I wonder if, like, obviously the musical is more focused on Elphaba as a person and have lost a little bit of, like, I spent more time developing her character, which I do think is important. And
Mhm.
then that animal plot becomes more of a subplot. And so, yeah, and maybe more of this will develop in the second half because it is kind of
Mhm.
this moment where you're like, oh, wait, I don't know enough to know Wizard is doing this or why Madame
Yeah.
Horrible is doing it. Like at the end, you're
Mhm.
like, oh, okay, here's this reveal, but I actually don't really know what's going on. Like they're the villains, but I don't really know why they're the villains. Like
Yeah,
what is
that's
encouraging them to be?
yeah, yeah. That's sort of part of it as well. Is it's hard to judge because we don't have the full story yet. This is only so it's sort of to sort of talk about it. It's like I mean maybe this will work with the second part of seeing this part. Maybe this will all make sense, but sort of as it is isolation, which is the way we have to judge it right now, it
Yeah.
sort of doesn't feel as it sort of feels like they sort of wanted to tell sort of two different stories, and then they sort of put both stories together, and so as a result, one of those stories feels far more developed
Mm-mm.
comparatively to the other, which sort of feels forgotten about until sort of towards the end when it needs to sort of be brought up again to be the catalyst. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how much they delve into it in the part two. I mean, yeah, I remember. I just remember something for it because I knew it was part one of two, but our the other sister that we went with
Yeah.
didn't know that
Didn't
until it
know.
started. did they do sing-along screenings of it? Am I misremembering that, or
I think so. I imagine that they did.
I mean, it seems like
See,
a
I
very
think
easy
that
way. Yeah.
originally I had considered not seeing it because I knew it was the first part and the second part was going to come out, and I was like, well, maybe I'll just watch the first part, you know, later, like late this year, right before
Yeah.
the second part comes out, rather than the first part. But yeah, there was just so much hype, and like it's still going. Like they have carried this publicity for, you know, probably 2 years now. When
Mm.
you put it all together, they've had, you know, just recently like the kind of like a concerty, like
Yeah, I
one
saw
wonderful night or something, I think.
this. I really was not, because I'm not that familiar with it, but they really like. I was surprised at how big it was. I know it's like this long running musical and everything, but I'm like, how much of that is going to translate to the audience, and how much is this going to
Yeah,
go
yeah.
beyond just the fact, like, because I feel like with musical films, you are appealing to the audience. Stage show, and get people who are going to go see it because they love the show. But I feel like there's a lot of people who don't know the show who did see it. Like it was just this like it was the film people were talking about for the end of the year. But like nobody, like people weren't really talking about anything else that was coming out near the end of
No.
24, really. And so I kind of just assume that's what all good will probably be.
But I think we talked about like no one mourns the wicked, but
Mm.
even before that, there's kind of sort of the opening like moments. They're
The
kind of reporting, or Glinda's sort of reporting what's happened with Elphaba, and they've got just the shot coming in of the tower,
Yeah,
and she's
and there's
speaking
like
over the top of that,
yeah,
which I think
and
is a
there's
really
just like
cool kind of.
yeah, the
Well, I
hat,
think the like
like
the hat's on the ground in the water, and then the sort of reflection of that being the tornado is a very cool
mm,
shot. And then all of the stuff that sort of comes after that, where the monkeys fly through the tower, and then you sort of see all of Oz. And I
mm,
I think a lot of those things that happen there we'll obviously see in the second, in For Good.
yeah,
So I'm keen to see that play out. And the only other thing that I think all of the musical numbers are like really incredible. No, well, they're all very good in the first part. Actually, I was like, yeah, what is this feeling? Is a really great, like fun, like a musical number. Like it's not as good as Dancing Through Life, but obviously there's a lot of good in there and a lot of interested because I haven't musical. I have heard from other people that like the best songs are in Act One rather of the musical.
okay,
I think it will be a more somber film, so I think the musical numbers will be. I wonder
yeah,
whether
they'll
there's
reflect.
any big
They won't be a
fun
sort of
musical
yeah
numbers in
with
the second part because
mm,
I think most of the songs in that part will be more
somber.
ballady, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they won't have
Mm.
the there won't be like insane, like massive choreographed sequences, moving through these giant, really elaborate set. Like
Yeah.
it won't be. It'll be a bit of
Yeah.
a more. I don't know if restrained is necessarily the word, but it won't be as Yeah,
But I
it
think
won't be. You'll
I
be
think you see that
bigger.
in every musical. Like I think every musical has that
Mm,
kind of thing as well. Like The Sound of Music, like the second half is more somber. Like
mm, yeah, I
I
mean,
think most
uh,
musicals sort of end up that way. The
yeah,
first
like
act
Les
is where your
Mis,
big numbers are. I
like
mean, Les Mis is somber all the way through.
it's very somber all the way through,
But yeah,
but you sort of the sort of yeah, like Les Mis is a very press is not like it's very, uh, not a not a particularly happy musical, but you sort of the way Act One ends, it's with this big sort of triumphant, like it's the everyone's singing together, and it's they're gonna go into battle for their freedom and everything, and then the second half, there's the songs, them dealing with that all these people have died, there's whereas sort of the first half you have like the stuff with the oh God, what are their names? I've forgotten their character names. The which characters? There's like the Master of the House song with
Yeah. Yes, yeah, the
which is that sort of the comedic sort of
mm,
element of the film, and you've sort of got the sort of more hopeful in that first half. You've got
yeah,
uh, you've got One Day More, and you've got Do You Hear the People Sing? Like the sort of the more, and then sort of the second half is just a lot of like you've got Marius's Empty Chairs at Empty Tables, which is a great, but it is like just him reflecting on the fact that all his friends have died in this. So like I don't know what to expect from it. Yeah, from everything I've been told and everything I've heard, the second act is not as well liked, generally speaking.
mm, yeah. But I think that obviously, they've made it a lot longer, some more like, I'm sure they're well aware of the criticisms of it, and they, have the opportunity to make that better. And I think that I'm glad that the film has followed, like, the the pacing of it, like, that the act 1 does end with gravity. I can only imagine that act 2 must have felt quite rushed because there's a lot of story left to tell. So I think that hopefully the longer sort of media form gives them the opportunity to fill maybe some of those gaps or things that people were less happy about.
Yeah, I mean, to talk about just quickly, Defying Gravity is they put it in the trailer, but it is just like I'd heard it on like Mel singing it on Glee. Like it is a very well known song, even if you're not like familiar with Wicked. Like people, they know the song.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think that it's a very popular song, and I guess selling having that in the trailer, I think isn't really a big deal because I think people like because if you're not familiar with Wicked, you're not really going to think anything of it. And if you know
Mm,
Wicked, you're like, oh, this is going to be, it's going to make you more excited to see it. So I don't see a problem with it. And I think Cynthia has like a very, I'm not familiar with her in general, but she is a Broadway, she's done stuff on Broadway and on. Yeah, she does a very good job in that song specifically because it's quite a powerful song. I did find while watching it is the way it's structured is very weird because it sort of stops and starts a few times. Like they
it
start
does,
singing
yeah.
it, and then they're sort of like going up the stairs and singing it, and then they stop for a bit, and then they do a bit more, and then they stop again, which I thought was very weird. I can't imagine the stage show is like that. Um,
Yeah,
it
there's
seems like
kind of like
the
a lot going on throughout singing it, like, there's a lot of
yeah, really, yeah, it's very weird because it starts and they do, they sort of do like the first bit where they say, define gravity, and then they stop, and then they do a bit more to like the next define gravity, and then they stop again. It's very weird, and I don't think it sort of loses the moment. Like they're building the momentum of the song, and you're getting to that like that bit, and then it just sort of loses all that momentum, and it just stops. And it's an interesting directorial choice, and I don't think it really works because I think it's a good song and everything, but just framing it that way and sort of crafting that sequence that way does sort of create, I don't know, maybe, I mean, I'm sure there is a way to make that work and make it so that you're not just stopping and starting the song over and over again.
so if you have soundtrack of the film, they have the film version of Defying Gravity, and then they have kind of like a radio edit version, which is the song
Right.
sort of as you would expect it, without all sort of the extra bits in
Yeah.
there. But it is kind of like this song, like it's a song in and of itself, but then it has these moments. It's that musical song where they're like bringing in all the other parts of the musical as well, like all the other songs. You know, like she has that, there's the moment in it where they have that unlimited part from The Wizard and I. Like obviously they changed the lyrics, but the melody is there. And then there's obviously parts where they're sort of arguing with each other at the beginning. They're sort of pulling in different songs that have played in the first half of the musical, I think. But yeah, I don't know if that is how it is in the original stage production, because it does interrupt what is a very powerful song. So yeah, I didn't mind it, but yeah, it was interesting, I think.
I mean, yeah, just to quickly touch on the last couple things.
Yeah.
I think watching this at home on just like my TV, it doesn't look as good as it does in the cinema. Like and I think the problem when I saw the trailers, I thought this looks kind of like it just looks too CGI heavy. And then when I saw it in the
Yeah.
cinema, it worked a lot better in the cinema, and I was like, "Oh, this doesn't actually look as bad as I thought it did in the trailers." And I don't know if that's because of the fact that seeing it in cinema sort of changes my perception of how things look, or if they've done some, editing work, like production work on it. I don't know exactly, but it didn't work as. And not that I don't. There's a lot of great practical stuff, but there is also CGI on top of the practical stuff, which can sort of dilute the effect in certain scenes. Like the train, I thought the train was CGI. I didn't think the train was real, but they did apparently like build that emerald train. But it there is something that looks a bit different about it, and I can't put my finger on why.
I don't know, but I think only used CGI to like enhance what they have actually built. And then obviously you've got some things like the animals, for instance. But it's a cinematic film. I think there's probably so much in the detail because it is all real and it is all built. There's a lot of detail in the extras and props and the costumes that you're probably missing seeing it in a smaller, like on a smaller screen than in that larger space, maybe that just doesn't quite have the same impact.
I will say also, it does feel like a fit. Like there are some times where you see films based on musicals, and it does or plays even, and it does just kind of feel like they just sort of filmed the play. Like it doesn't. It's not really that cinematic. Just read the plot synopsis for the second one, and it does sound like it is sort of going to focus on, like, because Jeff Goldblum's in it as well, and he's also not really like he's the Wizard of Oz. Like he's the the namesake of. So I assume there'll be a more of a he'll have a bigger role in the second half.
Yeah. Yes. And there's obviously and I don't really think this is spoilery because I think it's pretty clear from the first part of the film the role that he has in Elphaba's life, but I won't. Yeah, I do think that will be properly revealed in the second half. I think it's pretty clear in the first half that he is a significant person to her, more significant knows. Yeah, I think that Jeff Goldblum does, again, is the right as a character, as an actor, but is not an amazing singer.
I mean, I don't have like that much more to say on the film. I mean, I'm gonna put a rating on it. You can if you want to, but like, don't think you have to. Don't. Yeah, I'd give it a 6 out of 10, which it is like while I was never bored, I definitely didn't need all 2 hours and 40 minutes of it, and it's some of the performances and the singing wasn't like great. But like I enjoyed it a lot more than I expected to, because I didn't go in thinking I'd like it. So I thought I was going to come out and be really just not a fan, but I got more out of it than I expected. So yeah, it's okay. It's
Like, I would definitely rate it high. Like, I really, really love it. I think definitely talking, like, there's obviously some things that are not perfect about, like, it's not a perfect film. I could continue to watch this, be very happy about that. So I think I give it, like, an 8.5 out of 10. Like, there are just
mm,
so many great moments, and it's the kind of film genre that I enjoy. I like musicals. I think it's a very good musical, particularly when the second half comes out, as well. Like, there's just so much to talk about. Like, there is just so much in the themes and in the story to discuss.
and yeah, we're talking about because Wicked for Good will be out this week, which I will see. I think I haven't read too much in it. It is like apparently come out in some places or like very early. There's been some premieres in like a few different
Yeah, I
places.
think that has some premieres, yeah.
And I saw there was a clip that went around of like a guy like jumping the barricade at like a premiere and like not attacking
Yeah,
Ariana, but like and Cynthia was like very much
not being appropriate for
yeah
the no, yeah, no, absolutely.
yeah
Like,
she was very
obviously was not trying
yeah
to hurt her, but
yeah
his actions were
yeah and
unacceptable.
so I obviously take these with a grain of salt every time these sort of come out because early reactions are just positive, so it's hard to take them like
Oh, yeah,
because
you want good
so
publicity.
yeah, obviously yeah they're not going to let people publish like bad, so it's always hard to take them, and if they're there's people who see it early and they are under embargo, so they can't say like certain
Yeah,
things, and they're generally very positive. So it's
yeah.
and I'm just reading here that the film when it went on like tickets went on sale and then on Fandango it became the site's first day tickets of 2025, seeing recently Superman, and the Taylor Swift Life of a Showgirl movie that came out, and then it also apparently became the biggest PG-rated first aid ticket pre-seller and frozen to the 2019 Lion King and the sing-along version of K-pop Demon Hunters, and it entered the 10 best first day ticket pre-sellers of all time on
This
that
is just
Fandango website.
some bizarre films that you just named for, like,
Yeah, like
competing for, like,
it's
pre-sale. Like,
yeah.
I'm not surprised, like, I can see the popularity, but, like, yeah, it's just
Yeah, they're
really,
very interesting, like, cause like
interesting.
yeah,
I mean, Taylor Swift is very popular, and her, like, the Life of the Showgirl stuff was like, it was limited edition, like, it
yeah,
was just a weekend. K-pop Demon Hunters sing along, like,
yeah,
it's there on your Netflix. I was gonna say it's free on Netflix. It's
yeah.
not free, obviously, but if you have your Netflix subscription, you can watch it.
I mean, it's
Um,
almost certainly cheaper
yeah,
to stream it on Netflix.
then
A
to go to the
subscription to
cinema
Netflix has gotta be
just to
cheaper
sing
than a
along,
cinema
but
ticket now, but,
yeah.
I haven't seen K-pop Demon Hunters, but I know a lot of people who think it's, like, great, and they love the film, and I'm like
But it's
and I
very
probably will.
popular with the tween crowd, right?
Currently projected to gross 112 to 115 million in its domestic opening weekend, which is on the first film made in its opening. There'll be enough goodwill and hype for Wicked to sort of help push it along to get, a Best Picture nomination again. Probably
Yeah,
get Cynthia and
yeah,
Ariana nominated again for acting. I mean, I think Ariana's kind of seen as
definitely.
front runner to win. Like, we haven't seen the film, obviously, so maybe not,
Yeah.
but it seems very likely that she could win. Plus there's new songs in it. So
But I think John M. Chu is very deserving, and I think he didn't get
mm,
nominated for the first
mm.
part, right?
He did
Um,
not. He got I think
Yeah,
he might have
and I
got
think he
nominated
does
in
he's
other places, actually.
deserving a nomination, so I hope that he
Mm.
also gets his, like, the credit there of
Yeah, I don't know how, because like, it'll be interesting to see how well it does in the technical awards, because sequels kind of they get nominated a ton for like the first film for technicals, and then they don't sort of get as many nominations for technicals the second time. But also, they didn't win that many of the technical awards, which is the thing as well. Because Dune got nominated for like 4 Oscars last year, like it won like 7 Oscars,
Yeah.
like the first Dune did. So maybe they kind of thought, well, we don't need to nominate it because we've already awarded these people these, for these, these Oscars. So maybe that would, because I mean, yeah, it's only one production design and costumes. So I
Mm.
wouldn't be like surprised if it gets nominated in other technicals. I saw that it got nominated for Best Original Score the first weekend, which I find very interesting because I didn't know there was like an original score. I kind of just assumed it's all from the stage show.
I'm guessing they mean, like, sort of the background
Yeah,
music,
maybe.
right? Like, not the song, like, but
I
the
guess so, yeah, because they did, because Hans Zimmer, because he did the music for Dune too, and they said he was ineligible to get nominated because there wasn't enough original music,
yeah.
like between Dune 1 and Dune 2. So, I mean, obviously,
Mm.
they follow, like they set up the rules and they do follow them because they enforce them. So I'm not saying they're incorrect for nominating it. I'm just sort of it's a bit of a surprise. Yeah, I mean, I'm basically. I mean, I could tell that you're very excited for it. You're very much looking forward to it, which is what I expected. After you saw the first Wicked, you were very uh,
Yeah.
yeah. And I mean, I'm gonna go in like not really knowing anything, which is basically
Yeah.
how I went into the first one. So I think it'll be interesting to see how it turns out. Thank you very, very much for joining me for this week's episode. I'm recording for quite a while now.
No, thank you for having me. Yeah, I think there's so much to say about it. That's why I like the film because I think there's so much to talk about,
Mm,
even though it seems, on the surface like
yeah,
it's
on
a
the
fun
surface,
movie, but there's
yeah,
yeah, so much stuff that's deeper than that. Yeah. But
yeah,
yes, I had a great time. Thank you.
it's all good. Thank you for joining me for this recording. It's gone very long and very late, which I did not anticipate. But yeah,
Yeah,
anyway, thank
of course.
you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you all for listening. The only other family I've had do this was my dad. So I did a few episodes with him. I did an episode on A Few Good Men with him, and we did an episode on Firefly. So those are sort of earlier episodes, so they're sort of near the beginning of the podcast. So go listen to those because they're really good ones from my memory of doing them. And yeah, I hope you've all enjoyed listening. I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye.